doesn't have to just be, it doesn't have to be arbitrary. It doesn't have to be arbitrary. So considering, okay, so what, sorry, what I'm trying to say here is that if we are fond of just increasing rent without taking cognizance of the people who are seated tenants, without compassionate way of doing it, it means that we are never going to have a good relationship. Because in terms of Ebenezer, he said that he has been digging it out. They have been, and he has even called the man's name. And at the end of the day, the man said, see, Lagos is not meant for everybody. It's not supposed to be our bit to tell someone where they live. If we have issue, it's just going to be objective, and we should deal with that issue without taking it personal. So from this case study, we have also learned that we should be compassionate, especially for sitting tenants, and that rent should not just be increased arbitrarily. So now we come to the power of emotional intelligence. Okay, so yes, like we said from the beginning, we cannot achieve all this if we are not emotionally intelligent, because as human beings, we are full of emotion. We are made up of emotion. So it's just like emotion dealing with other emotions. So in the dynamic world of property management and multifamily real estate, technical experts is essential. We have to be professional. We have to know the know-how of the work. You know, there is one driver that we had before in our organization. He was driving one of our manager, and he would just be driving anyhow. And when she complained, he would tell her that I'm a professional driver. I'm a professional driver, but you are not going through the rules. You don't even know how to do. So at the end of the day, he was laid off. So we used to make just that you're a professional driver, but you don't know how to. So what I'm trying to say here is that it's not just bragging to say, no, do you know when I got my ESV, I am ESV this and ESV that. That is not what is so, it's good and important, but that's not the key thing for a tenant who you cannot meet, you know, their needs, or who you are not communicating rightly to. So we are saying this technical expertise is essential, but in emotional intelligence, it's emotional intelligence that really sets apart industry professional. And that's why you are looking at someone who has not gone through the world of school, but is doing this property management. And people are giving you work, and you are wondering, but this man did not even go to school. I know this man, he was just an agent, but everybody is calling him to manage their property. So it might be that this man has a way of meeting the need of tenant, of communicating calmly. Of course, he already knows that he has a disadvantage in terms of technicality. So the other way, he must not fail. So as professional, technical expertise is very, very key, but we must also include what? We must also include the emotional aspects of it. Property management professional who possesses high emotional intelligence are better equipped to navigate the diverse challenges. It's not easy. You know, sometimes I used to make joke of it in my office because I see how our property management department, the way they are solving problems up and down. So one time I would tell my manager and say, manager, the way you move me to, the day you move me to this department, that the second they just expect my letter. So it was just like, the way they are serious, solving one problem before they finish, another one is coming. I'm like, it's not easy. Yes, let's say the truth to ourselves, it's not easy. But can the relationship work? Yes, the relationship can work if we become so intentional. EQ enable individuals to effectively understand and manage their emotions, empathize with tenants and colleagues, and build a strong relationship. No matter how difficult it is still possible to become intentional. It is still possible to, maybe someone, a tenant, you have just gone, you know, sometimes you want to really impress someone and you get there is another thing, but you have to become intentional. We have a story in our office where they have gone to maybe ask for rent from a particular tenant, and he said that I will just kill you, nobody will know. And you know, the person said, yes, sir. You understand? So this relationship, what will make us to be able to really be effective is our level of emotional intelligence. Developing self-awareness, you know, for effective property management. So how do we develop this self-awareness? Self-awareness talking about understanding yourself, understanding your own emotion, Understanding what triggers you, because for the fact that you are a property manager does not mean that you are not a human being. You are first of all a human being who has emotion, who also have their own way how people should talk to them, but you are in a position where you are serving other people. And because of this relationship, you might not be able to really react in a way. So instead of reacting, you might want to respond. So you first of all understand yourself. What self-awareness means is understanding myself and using this understanding to deal with the other person. Understanding myself, just like someone who says, maybe in a department, you have someone who says that, I hate when men talk to me. It's just like a disrespect. And you want to go and collect rent from a man that has been owned. That may not be the best person to send to collect the rent. Because when you get there, what if the man, so what can happen? And you know, you want to protect your organization. You might use that person for another responsibility, but you tend to look at understanding. And because when I say understand yourself, it's also talking about, as organization, understanding the people that work with us. What level of duties? Where can you send this? Where you can send Mr. A to resolve a problem? Can you send Mr. B to them? You can always do this so that at the end of the day, they represent you. Professional can develop. Let me just say, self-awareness is a fundamental component of emotional intelligence. Property manager must have a deep understanding of their own emotion, triggers, and strength to effectively navigate complex situations. By honing self-awareness, professionals can develop better control over their reaction, make sound decisions under pressure, because sometimes dealing with property management is more or less under pressure. People are saying the water is not working, you must work now. There is no light, I must have light now. Something happened. What can we do? Or we have a fire breaker, what can we just do? So we must have this ability to make sound decisions under a tense situation. Empathy and active listening for strong tenants. You know, empathy is saying that I understand your perspective. I hear you. I see it in your word. It might not even be correct, but try to say it. So empathy is particularly critical in multi-family real estate industry, where property managers interact with diverse range of tenants. Diverse range of tenant means diverse range of emotion. Inside this tenant, you might have someone who, no matter what they do, what you do, they are not interested. You know, I was attending one particular parish of a church one time, and they will talk about one man. They say, no matter how funny the thing is, I know that man, he will never laugh. If the pastor says something and almost everybody is laughing, this man, imagine having someone, I'm not saying this particular one, someone out of this tenant that no matter what you do, it's like you have not done your bit, but you still want this relationship to work. So you need to see it in their own word. You need to understand it in their own word. Cultivating empathy allows professionals to understand tenant needs, concern, and perspective, not just what they say, how they say it. Listen to their body language or their tone of words and their preference. Very important. Not, you know, you have to learn. Part of what we have to do in building this relationship is to learn to be flexible, you know, with what we do. And to also make the tenants understand that we care beyond just collecting rent. We care that the situation may not be palatable, but we are going to go by it. Practice active listening. We have to listen to our tenants. We have to listen and listen again, not just to what they say, how they say, their tone of voice, like I said, their preference, providing tenants with undivided attention. You know, some people can, I know they can want to take more of our time, but because you're already with them, we have to give them. It's not when we are with them, you're already checking that I have other appointments. This, and they can see it from your body language that you're not really listening, and demonstrating genuine interest in their experience. So how is our own intention in property management? Are you just managing this property to get rent, or you want to really provide a comfortable place, you know, for people? You really concerned about the people, you know, shelter aspect of life. So you need to also understand why you are in business. So, and it's not just the business of making money, and that's why we say it goes beyond just rents. Because if it's rent, we might not last. But if we are proving to our tenant that we care about their well-being, not just the rent, then the rent will automatically come in. The ability to empathize and actively listen, foster positive tenant relationship, improve tenant retention. You are able to retain, because when the house is good, when you are all what they need is being met, and your communication line is open, then they may not even see the need to start looking for another house because they're already enjoying this relationship, and enhance the reputation of your multi-family property. There's a way that the news can spread. Like we say that when you do a good thing, maybe they might tell 2 people, but if the experience is bad, they might tell 20 people. And from that 20 people, it's just spreading like that. So we must also be conscious. 5 ways to keep tenants happy. Responsive communication. You know, when they communicate to you, when they tell you about their concern, you are there to respond. Or if you have told them that, this is where you can call, this is the person you can call if you have issue, and the person responds. It's not that they are calling the line, no, the line is not going. They will call and call and call. The line is not going. Regular maintenance and upkeep, if you want them to be happy, you have to, because those are the things that are important to them. There is no how the relationship will be, and you are not providing, the necessary needs. You are not going to have a good relationship. Fair and transparent policy. There should not be ambiguity in your lease agreement. Try to explain. It's not that you have finished everything and the tenant is like, I did not see this. Encourage your tenant to also read. Like they say that if you want to hide something from a black person, just put it in a book. It's not everybody that goes ahead to read it, but encourage them that, okay, read this thing before signing. Read to understand, and you can ask me any question. So always ask for their feedback. If you have done a repair, don't say, we have done a repair, let's just leave him. The man has wahala. If you go and ask him now, is he okay? We tell you it's not okay. Just ask him. You ask him the first time, say, by the time you ask him and he doesn't know that it's your customer, you know that you really care. Sometimes when you go to some hospital and maybe you use some kind of HMO, they will call you. We understand that you were at this particular hospital. Did they take care of you? Is there delay? So sometimes they, like me, they call me. Sometimes they will send me a message. I will not even reply. That means you must understand what area or in what channel of communication. Because I'm like, in my busy schedule, I will not be telling you what happened as far as I'm out of the way. But sometimes they will go the extra mile to call and ask, do you have any delay? Sometimes I'll say, well, I had delay because some people came before me. There's an understanding. I know that the delay is not so. The response might not be all positive, but there might be a reason why it is not positive. So I think we should give our tenants that opportunity. We should not be scared of, they will say that we didn't do it well. If you have done a repair, you have sent someone to do work, you can call them later and say, sir, we sent this person. I hope you met your expectation. Is there other things that we can do for you? So those are the things that, meaning that you are fair, you are transparent. Amenities and enhancements, provide the necessary as agreed. Respectful and professional interaction. We must respect them. We must not say, if not that I'm a property management, that girl, I can even give back to that. That is nonsense. Like, I'm sorry to use the word nonsense. Like, that's not necessary. Is your customer, and the customer is the king or the queen. What do you say to an angry tenant? Sometimes our tenants can become angry for one reason or the other. It may not even be about what you have done, but maybe you just find yourself in that position. Understand the situation before responding. Maybe it even has to do with repair or another tenant. I read a story of one tenant abroad, a lady that was just living in her own apartment, and another man living in the next flat now dug a hole from his own apartment, and he was washing the lady. In the night, he would just be washing her from that hole that he dug. I don't know how that happened, that they didn't see the hole, but one night they caught him that he was doing that. Imagine that kind of person. He might be embarrassed, angry. So you need to first of all understand the situation before responding. It's not that they call you and say, somebody is checking me up from their room and Allah like checking you. How can he be checking you up? How is it possible? How can you understand? What you need to first of all understand, investigate, listen to their complaint, empathize with their situation and feeling. That thing that they are complaining about may not be important to you. It might be something that if it happens to you, does not mean anything. But like we say in emotional intelligence, that nothing means anything except the meaning that we give to it. What if this person is giving a serious meaning to it? So we need to empathize with that situation and feeling. Ask clarifying questions to ensure understanding. Someone has said that my neighbor dug a hole and he's looking at me. And you now say, okay, I wanted to reconfirm. You mean he dug a hole looking at you? You just wanted to understand, because maybe it's sounding strange, but you need to understand. This escalates the situation with professionalism. Don't expand the issue by your own response. Don't make your tenant get more angry by the way you now respond. Avoid taking their anger personally. Avoid it. Separate yourself from the issue. Deal with the issue. Know that if this person is talking to you, he might be talking to you not personally, but because of maybe the services that you have not provided. So look inward to see that, oh, where have we missed it? And that's why I talk about, if you want to pay this relationship, you must have the ability to learn, unlearn, and continue to relearn. Offer apologies and solution. Offer apologies and solution. What do you do to a king? If a king say all that he has to say, either right or wrong, you will still frustrate to say, oh, your highness, and so on. So even if you have reason, so make it professional. State realistic expectation and timelines. Like if your tenant is angry, this water is not working, because he's very angry, and say, oh, before 2 p.m. today, everything will be working. And you know that you cannot meet up with expectation. It's better not to give specific time because your tenant is angry. Be realistic in what you're doing. So in conclusion, I saw something online where I conclude about a tenant who was advocating for other tenants for one reason or the other. So because of that, the property managers, they became angry. And the lease agreement said he was going to pay like, is it $7,000 or $7,500? They now increased it to $11,000 because they wanted to frustrate her. She took them to court, won the court case. When they came back, they were now misbehaving, like trying to cut her off from the light, retaliating. It's not supposed to be so. And that is the area where we need to look inward. Where have we failed? No matter how good we are as property manager, we might have area that we should see. There's still area for improvement. We must look at it as case by case. How can we improve? How can we do better? In conclusion, we must strive to make this relationship work. So it's not about the tenants, like the tenants, let your head be correct. If you are correct, I'll be correct. No, it's our own person. This relationship is important. This relationship will create a smooth atmosphere. This relationship we can bring about, tenants retention. This relationship can create more business. They can give us referrals, because someone who is a tenant today can become promoted or can get one access to somebody that can give him billions of naira that he wants to buy a property. And the next person that I'll be thinking of, this property manager that has been going beyond for me, even writing me when things were not right, even giving me something when I was coming in as a new tenant, those are the kind. So we must make the relationship work if we will continue to, so that we don't go out of business. If we don't create this relationship, we will only end up creating room for litigation. Because if we don't, someone that you have a good relationship with, even if you make mistake, they will still understand. But if the relationship is bad from the beginning, they will give you no chance of even explaining yourself. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so very much for that presentation, Moji. That was mouthful. On a lighter note, I was going to say, when you started and you were talking about not pounding yam in the house, I was just laughing. I was thinking, what kind of I'm just imagining people who eat pounded yam and you have in the lease agreement something saying that you cannot pound the yam and all that. That's just a lighter note, but it goes to show how much we should be very clear and we should be very concise. So that we don't assume things too. And even when you put things down, both the tenant and also the manager should be clear of what they want. The tenant should also be very clear by ensuring that they read those things and they are very clear of what the tenancy agreement states. Thank you very much for that presentation. A whole lot. I picked down quite a few things you talked about, which of course is one of the hallmark of our job. We want to ensure that there are low vacancy rates. The more low vacancy rates you have, the more opportunity you have in terms of income into the property. You talk about having positive reputation. You talk about creating stress free and all that. And much more importantly, too, you talked about the need for us to see it as a business and not just as to see our work as a business and not just as not to see the work as just to see more like a business. So thank you very much for the presentation. And there are one or two questions already. But I think I have, I would like to bring Madam G also up here. Is Madam Glory there? Madam Glory, where's Madam Glory? I can't see your face. I want you to, is she there? Glory is already here. Please, can you unmute your speaker? And if possible, if I can see you, so that I let you into one or two things. Moji, you talked about, while we're expecting Madam Glory, okay. Madam G, it's good to see you.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Good to see you. You heard what Moji said, right? Look at Moji talking about we should not pound the yam, put a caveat in, but very interesting. Very interesting discussions and all that. So let me quickly just let Madam Glory weigh in one or two things quickly. Madam Glory, Moji talked about the need to learn, unlearn, and relearn. In terms of property manager and their tenants, from your own perspective, what are the things do you think we need to do differently? I mean, Moji talked about a few things. I mean, basically she was saying that we don't have to be doing the same thing and expect different results. But can you quickly weigh in a little? What are other things from property manager vis-a-vis the tenant, the things that we need to do differently or that we don't have to do the way it used to be done? Do you want to say something 1 or 2 minutes before we take some of the questions?
Thank you, Mr. Sonjo, for allowing me to come into this webinar. Okay, like Moji said, like we need to learn and unlearn in some areas. Before now, we have our traditional ways of doing things. Tenants will make complaints, and it will take like a lot of time before the complaint can even get to the office. Take days, take weeks, But now with the new technology in vogue, you find out that once a complaint is being made in a property, that even in the office, the officer in charge can easily see the complaint and make sure that the issues are being attended to immediately. So it's no longer business as usual. When a complaint will be, a tenant will make a complaint in the property, and you take maybe the site officer days and weeks, and he might not even remember to even notify the office. But now, without even the site manager notifying the officer in charge is getting the complaint directly, by even sending daily reports, weekly reports, online daily reports, so you'll see what is happening. The tenant can report directly to the office, and the office will take it up and make sure that the issue is being resolved on time. So you find out that we're actually growing in that aspect. It's not like business as usual. It's not. We don't not take it the old method, which we've been doing it before now.
All right, thank you, Madam Glory. Okay, so I want to also ask, and I want you to weigh in on this because it's also something Moji did mention. When we're talking about this lease agreement, the need for you to be clear and concise in your lease agreement, what and all that. Now, I noticed, or probably some of the practices that people just sign lease agreement, most times not because they actually read them. Tenant wants to come into the property, they just feel, okay, we can make payment, they just sign and all that. Do you think the property manager has a role to play in ensuring that these lease agreements are properly read and well understood by the tenant? Do you think it's our responsibility to do? Because I just feel that most times people will just probably, okay, for instance, the one Moji talked about and say, okay, maybe there's a clause that says you should not pound in the house. Maybe a tenant does not even know, he just signed. And someday he just found in the house. And the landlord comes and says, okay, this is part of your tenancy agreement, and probably give you a quick notice. So, I mean, ignorance is not an excuse in law. But I'm just thinking, since we want to do things differently, would you advocate that we ensure that tenants who take this property, do we sit down with them to read line by line? I'm just thinking this. Do we sit with them to read line by line the tenancy agreement, or what other means do you think we can ensure that they read well this tenancy agreement and they actually understand it before they append their signature?
Mr. Sonjo, what we do now, before now, we just allow them to sign off and send back to us. But now we make sure we advise them to always get a lawyer to go through the agreement on their behalf, to understand what they are signing before they will sign it. We always know that. We don't just give you an agreement and you sign off without notifying you. No, we need to, because at times, this agreement, some of them carries, like Moji mentioned, 1 year certain. And somebody who does not understand the meaning of that 1 year certain might just go and sign, and at the end of the year, before the expiration of that lease, the owner will give you notice to move. And you start arguing. And by the time they get to court, they'll say, but you were given 1 year certain, and you said you do not understand it. So we usually ask them, give to a lawyer. We advise them, give to a lawyer to go through it. So that if you have issues, you come up and we agree on it before you sign up. Not just to quickly rush to it. We don't even take it. We don't give you and collect it immediately. We'll give you a draft copy so that you can go through it, make your comments. We agree on it first before we even sign up. At times, we even ask them we give our lawyers' contacts to them so that the two lawyers can actually agree before the agreement can be signed off. So that tomorrow nobody will say that I am not aware, or because it was not properly explained to me, that's why I signed off, and tomorrow we'll start having issues. No, we advise them to always give to a lawyer to go through it with them before signing off. We're not meant to go through with them because we are representing the landlord. They are to go through with their own lawyer and then come back to us. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Madam Glory. I'm not allowing you go yet. There's one or two questions, but I just need us to have, a robust conversation, because Moji had made some very important and vital points in our presentation. The other thing I want you to say one or two things to, before I think it's just one question I can see here. The other things has to do with people commending the presentation, and the presentation was good. Now, Moji talked about 5 ways to keep our tenant happy. And I'm just beginning to ask myself, you are going to answer this question. Moji is also going to answer this question, because Moji talked about being empathetic, talking about intelligence, emotional intelligence into property management and with our tenant. But we're also humans. Madam Glory, I'm also human. I could also be going through some things myself, right? And I may also have my own bad day, and meeting a tenant who also complicate the bad day. So the question I want to ask here is that, without trying to make excuse for us as professionals to be unruly or to be rude, but I'm also saying that as property managers, we're also humans too. So if a tenant speaks to you anyhow, and maybe speaks to you in a manner, and don't forget, maybe you're coming from the background, you have issues before meeting the tenant, how best do you think is easy to handle this situation? Should we? Moji is also going. I hope Moji is listening to this and she could also talk to it from the emotional angle and all that. But from your own perspective, being a property manager over the years and seeing so many leases, and you have handled so many properties and so many tenants and all that. You also have your own issues. I have my own issues. How best can we handle things like this, knowing fully well that as property managers, we also have our emotions? What do you think we can do, and how do you think we can handle things better?
So, this question is very, very tough. We have issues, we have instances where a tenant has actually slapped one of us, sent nasty messages to us and all those things. But because we are professional, for you to handle a property management aspect, you must be somebody who has you must be patient. You understand me? Like Moji said, you must be patient. Your patient level must be very high. You understand me? You should be somebody who will not be quick to react in some cases. So in this aspect, because you know you are coming from a professional side, irrespective of what a tenant said or tells you, I think you have to at least be calm at that moment. You should not even react, maybe badly, you know. You have to absorb it because you are representing a body. You are not just yourself. You are not representing yourself right there. You know, maybe by the time you get back to office, the office can now write the tenant officially, but you are not meant to react the same way with the tenant. No, I think it's wrong. You know?
Thank you, Madam Glory. Before, okay, thank you. I mean, I think there's something you said that is very instructive to me. You talked about always remember that you are representing a brand. I mean that if that stays with you, it helps. Before Moji, I want to hear you too also to that with the same thing. Please, can the back end promote Ayo Olale? Yes, I think this I know him too. Ayo Olale, please, can you promote him to a panelist? He has a comment or maybe a question. Let's give him the room to say that. But before he comes on, we're going to allow you to speak, sir. But let me let Moji into that same question that I asked Glory right now. I mean, we're all, what best way? Glory has said it succinctly in terms of what we should do, but coming from somebody who is a professional in terms of emotional intelligence, what would you advise? We all have our emotions, and I mean, tenants speak like Glory said, somebody slaps someone, what should be our response and all that, how best to handle it?
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, just like Madam Glory has answered, like we must always remember that we represent a brand. But what if at that point, like you said, maybe the professional was really having a bad day? There is no perfection everywhere. So it's just that it should not become a pattern. So if the person has even, like our professional reacted back, so by the time the person gets to the office or by the time the person realizes the magnitude, it's part of emotional intelligence for us to accept that we were wrong. So, and to also be able, there is a place where I talk about apology, you understand, although not in the direct context that we're not asking. So if we find ourselves that we had lapses or because we are also human, we can also come out to say, oh, I'm sorry, I was having a bad day. This does not represent us well, but I'm sorry. As far as this does not become a pattern that people already know that this is what you usually do, any human being will understand. We might not be able to win the case that time. Maybe that will have made the tenant zeros. Of course, no matter how good the relationship, you try to create a relationship, you are not going to win everybody. So if that will now be a learning point for us as professionals, and that's where the learning, relearning, and unlearning also comes from. But we must become so intentional to know that I represent a brand.
Thank you very much, Moji. Is Ayolale there? I saw him, he was promoted earlier on. Ayolale, if he's there, we may want him to speak up briefly. I mean, before we take the questions, Ayolale, is it there? Ayolale, please, is it there? I don't seem to see Ayolale. Please, if you can come up again, that's fine. But let's take the questions that we do have here. Let me read the questions. Madam Glory, I also hope you understand on the standby for this question. Yes, Yomotunde says, good afternoon and thank you for sharing this wonderful, impactful experience. It says, on the responsibility of landlord and tenants, how can we resolve issue of faulty water heater that was working as at the time of handing over, including the borehole? Attention for repairs of both came. What is your advice and thank you? Okay, so I don't know if you get this question, Madam Glory. This person is saying before the water heater was handed over and also the borehole, it was handed over in good condition. And shortly after, there's this attention for repairs. What best way do you think it should be handled?
Okay, Mr. Sonjo, if the water number, I think I want to answer it from two ways. The water heater was handed over in good condition and the borehole, is it a service apartment or not service apartment? If it's a service apartment and it becomes faulty, I think the first thing they should try is to service from the service charge, to repair from the service charge. But if it is beyond repair, it's the landlord responsibility to replace the water heater and fix the borehole, and not the tenant's responsibility. They can only carry out repairs if it is a service apartment. And the tenant as well, if it's not service, the tenant can try the repairs, but it's purely landlord responsibility and not tenant responsibility. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Glory. So let's take the other question. This question, okay, sorry. Okay, so the other question is actually coming to Madam Glory. He said, good afternoon. This is from Anonymous. He said, Mrs. Glory said something about a clause in the tenancy agreement, which says 1 year setting. I will need a little bit of clarification on that. Please, Madam Glory, can you clarify? Can you just help us to educate this person one more time on the issue of 1 year setting?
Okay, 1 year setting means that your tenancy can be terminated immediately after that 1 year. It's just 1 year lease that you are being given because the lease said 1 year. So if there will be need for you to renew, you have to do a proper 6-month notice to the agent. Notice, you not the tenant, has to notify the agents, or the property manager that I want to renew my tenancy. If not, the owner has the right to take you out of the property after 1 year. If there won't be any need for quit notice again, it only gives you 7 days notice to quit you out of the property. So that's why we need to be very careful when we're taking an agreement to watch that year, that's 2 years or 1 year certain. That word certain is a key word. We should always watch out for it in our agreements. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that answer. Very good. Okay, this other one is saying, thank you, ma, for the presentation. You did a very good job, ma. He said, I want to ask in the aspect of land use charge, who is to pay? Is it the landlord or the tenant? Madam Glory, that's definitely to you. Who is land use charge? Is it the responsibility of the landlord or is it that of the tenant?
Okay, land use charge in Lagos State is actually 2 payments merged together. So it's the responsibility of the both parties. The landlord, because he collects rent, and his responsibility is to pay ground rent from the rent that he collects. And the tenant, because he lives in the property and he's meant to pay tenement rent for making use of the property. So it's actually 50-50 payment between the landlord and the tenants. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam G. Madam Glory, that's no. I mean, that's wonderful. I have one question here. Even this question, even while I was reading, I was laughing. And I hope you answered this question because this question is so funny. Let me read it to you. This is also an anonymous. It says, good afternoon. It says we were managing one estate in this Abuja. Apparently, this person is listening from Abuja. He said today it is water dripping from the suspended floor. Tomorrow it is the wire hanging out to shock the residents. The whole construction was just below par. So every day, new issues. Tenants kept calling. The landlord ran away and left us. In situation like this, what can be done? The landlord ran and left. Madam Glory, what can they do?
It's just like what Moji said. Once there is a good communication between the agents, the tenants, and the landlord, this is to me, I don't think it's an issue, And again, once it's being properly spelled out in agreements, who is to cater for this and who is to cater for the other one. It's not just the tenants. We too are to advise the landlord rightly, that, this property was not it was not properly built, and we have XYZ issues, And I believe if these issues are being taken care of, we won't be spending too much money carrying out repairs on daily basis. So it's actually our duty to not to advise the tenant, but to talk to the landlord to carry out his duties so that the tenant will enjoy the property. You understand? So landlord cannot run away since he's the one collecting the rent from the property. So once he's collecting rent, we can even advise him, okay, as you are collecting this rent, let's even get somebody who will give us a quote on how to fix this. So that immediately you are picking up your rent, you are deducting the cost of carrying out those repairs from it. And then do carry out your duties and give the tenants room to enjoy the apartment or the house he paid for, and you too can equally enjoy subsequent rent, after that repairs.
Thank you, Madam Glory. Such a funny question. Okay, so we have 2 more questions, but before then, please can you promote Yes Your Motunde? I don't know, she has a comment to make or question to ask. Can you promote? Okay, so can you just quickly unmute yourself and go to your comment? Your comment and your question, if it's comment, let's quickly have it so that we can take the other 2 questions and wrap up. Yes, you have the floor. Please unmute yourself, please.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, sir. Hello, we cannot hear you, sir. Can you speak up? Is there a problem with the... Yes, Your Motunde, we cannot hear you, please. Hello, yes, Your Motunde, please. Are you there? I think the network seems not to be cooperating. We can't seem to hear him. Madam Glory, let's take these 2. Let me take this last comment. Then if we can hear him back, but if not, we're going to be wrapping up. This person says very beneficial presentation ahead of new technology. What is it and how can we assess it? Even Madam Glory made mention of it too. I want to know this. What's the name of this new technology and that? I just want to believe these are basically their software tools and all that. I'm not sure there's anyone in particular they are mentioning here, but if Madam Glory wants to say something about that, she can say that. The other person who is asking this question is saying, on the land use charge, how 50-50 payment between landlord and tenant? Are the charges the same? Madam Glory, do you want to respond to just these 2? The first one has to do with technology, and from my own point of view, I think this technology is not, we don't have anyone we are promoting personally, but we're just saying the need for you to be technological savvy and use technology because you have a lot of them. Then the other question has to do with 50-50. It says what is the on the land use charge, how can it be 50-50 payment between landlord and tenant? Are the charges the same? Madam Glory, let's hear your comments and see how we can begin to wrap up.
Okay, like what Mr. Son just said, we're not promoting any special technology. There are a lot of them in the market. If you just Google, you can get quite a number of them. So I think is there for us. Just Google it, you will get it. Then for the land use charge, because we don't know their method of calculations and we don't want anybody to be cheated from it. So we'd rather do 50-50. You understand? We do 50-50. We don't want to say landlord pays 60% because we don't know the rate at which they use in calculating it. So everybody bears the cost, 50% to the tenant, 50% to the landlord. Or some people, but I know some people even ask the tenant to pay it, but which I believe is not even the right way to go about it. And some people said it's the landlord responsibility. It's still not the right way to go about it because the tenant is actually enjoying staying in that property, so he has to pay the tenement through it. And landlord on his own part is enjoying the rent as the owner of the property, so he has to carry out his own bit. So for us not to have issues with both parties, we decided to go on 50-50 sharing of the bill, and it's been working out for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Glory. One more question, if you can. One more question here. I hope. Sorry, the ESV who raised his hand. We can't see him again. I guess it's a network issue. If you can come in before we take this last question, we accommodate you. But if not, you can send in your question and you can be sure that our team of experts will handle them. So this question, Madam Glory, is saying, good afternoon. We got a new property brief and started letting because all the units were vacant. We got tenants to fill the vacant units. Then the issues started coming from different angles, from faulty WC to light issues and more. We have been able to rectify this issue. Moving forward, what should we do to build trust with the tenant back? Because they lost trust and doubted our professionalism. What should we do to build trust again with the tenants? Madam Glory, can you answer that?
Yeah, Mr. Sonja, we are not the developers who actually develop these properties. Our own is just to rent on behalf of the landlord, And we always advise the owners of the property that at least the first 6 months, or even the first 1 year, there are bound to be issues. It's just for the tenants to exercise patience with us to enable us tackle the issues. Because there is no way you will build a new house that somebody has not used before, that you will not find out issue of leakages. If it's not roof leakage, it will be plumbing leakages, it will be one thing or the other thing. But just for them to exercise patience with us, at least once there is constant communication with them, you understand, trying to let them know that, yes, it's a new house, there is bound to be repairs, as in leakages and all those issues, but we will tackle them. We will make sure that those issues are being taken care of immediately by the people that actually maybe carried out the particular job from inception, giving them that this comfort that I'm not bringing in an external person to come and work on it. I'm bringing in the developer, the person who actually constructed the building, to come in and correct all those issues. I think that's enough comfort to them, enough comfort to at least to give them that trust, to give us that trust. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Glory. Please, Tokwe, I can still see Eziomotunde on the group. Can you bring him up? Though he's not raising his hands. Please, he made attempt to ask question earlier on. Tokwe, please, I can still see him inside that place. Please, can you bring him up so that we just take his question? Or his question or his comment. Tokwe, can you do that? Okay, good. Yes, Eziomotunde, please, can you unmute yourself and try to speak now? Can we get to hear you now?
Okay, so thank you so much. Sorry for the disruption earlier. I think it was a network issue. I would like to say a very big thank you for organizing this. It's thought-provoking. And the question I asked earlier, well, the answer is okay, but from the angle of the landlord, she's of the opinion that since it's internal, that's the water heater, that the tenant should take care of it. As per the borrower, we also discovered from questioning that most times the tenant asks the security guards to leave it on, especially when there is no light, so that whenever there is light, it can actually pump water. So from usage, we realized that they didn't take ownership of the borehole, including the water heater. Nobody leaves electricity appliances on these days. I mean, you should put it off. But we realized that from usage, they didn't take ownership of what the landlord has provided. And that was why I also sought for that advice. Overall, I'm very grateful for this webinar. It's nice. And a big thank you to CLF for championing this. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Eziomotunde. Thank you so much for that feedback. Thank you. We do appreciate this, and we do not take this feedback lightly. Thank you for that. Comments too. It just shows that we are all partners in progress to ensure that things are done properly. Thank you very much. Madam Glory, let me take one more question as we begin to wrap up. The question is, I have a question on finding good tenants. I believe this is dicey. After doing all the background checks, some tenants still end up being something else. My question is, are there special techniques on getting good tenants? And how can we employ emotional intelligence to get good tenants? I don't know if Moji is answering this one or Madam Glory, because this is talking about emotional intelligence. But Madam Glory, you should be able to talk into this about how to ensure that we tenant selection, good tenant selection.
I think I will talk on good tenant selection. Then we will take the emotional intelligence part of it. Mr. Sonjo, it's not really easy getting this tenant. But let me tell you what we go extra mile. When we ask them for where they're moving out from, where they're coming out from, and their place of work, we actually go there to reconfirm if they actually work there. If you run your business yourself, we'll do a background check to make sure whether the person actually owns the business or is fronting for somebody else, because we have scenarios where people give us their business addresses and all those things. By the time we get there, find out there is nothing like that there. Though some will put some in our form, will ask for your former landlord's contact and all those things. Some usually put their relatives and their family members' numbers. So we don't even take that aspect serious again. So that step of going to their place of work, at times writing their HR, to find out whether this person actually works there. If he works in an organization, then if the HR confirms to us that the person works there, then we can now decide whether to continue with the transaction. Then if the person owns the business, we'll have to go there indirectly, do a background check to find out whether that person really owns the business or not. Then at times when they put the address of where they're coming from, even if we don't contact the landlord, we'll go around and make some inquiries to know the type of tenant the person is and to find out the reason why the person is moving out. So that we won't get somebody who will move in to start giving us headache, because we notice there are some of these tenants that they will pay 1 year here, spend 3 years there, move out to another property, spend another 1 year, pay 1 year, stay 4 years there. You give them quick notice and they move to, just like that. So we need to be very careful so that we don't, and I think if there should be a way, maybe a database where we can be recording all these tenants' contacts so that other agents, other surveyors can easily go in and check the details of this tenant before even accepting them or giving them their properties. I think it will help us. We should be thinking of that. And I know it will be something that will benefit all agents so that it will be easier. Once somebody comes in Lagos, anywhere in Lagos, just queue in the person's details, you find out everything about that person to know whether it's worthy to be given your property or not. I think it's something we should be looking into for now. Thank you.
Moji, do you want to add anything to it in terms of the emotional dimension?
Yeah, thank you so much. So what we just add is getting a perfect tenant, I would say that is divine. So you can just only try, but I think if from the beginning we have a good tenancy or lease agreement that we guide, that would be like a rules and regulations, both for the landlord and the tenants, so that can guide. So, and again, when we talk about using emotional intelligence, the emotional intelligence there is not, you don't have control over your tenant, actually. It's about you as the professional. The emotional intelligence is how you compose yourself, how you are intentional, and also there's what we call in emotional intelligence, the relationship aspect. Even from the beginning, when you are taking this client out, are you able to notice some signs? Like normally we have some obvious red, what do we call them? Red flag, you understand? But apart from that, even in their emotions, and you don't just even judge them from just one interaction. And when we talk about this relationship, honestly, is a continuous one. And even like there was one time in our organization, we're having a training, and we concluded in our own training that there is no difficult clients. We know actually that in reality, people might be difficult, but we want to stay in that place to say that there is no difficult client. That maybe that client you are thinking is difficult is because you have not met the person's expectation. So this emotional intelligence, apart from, may not really say, okay, we help you to get it. You can only be emotionally intelligent in how you carry out, how you compose yourself in getting this tenant. But how they now turn out to be, you might have little or no control. But the control is not like, you might not be able to control their attitude or their acting, but the lease agreement will be a guide. And you yourself as a professional, be intentional, we help you to navigate. So I don't know if that will help. Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean, it does. I mean, when you just started by saying it's divine, I was just thinking, I just thought in my head, I was like, I mean, yeah, it could be divine. I mean, but again, I was just also thinking that most times we should not leave what we should do. We should not leave it out to God, right? I mean, I believe strongly that it could be divine. It's divine. But I mean, just like Madam Dory said, and you've also said, there are certain things you talked about, red flags. So the red flags are there for you to, as a professional, to begin to determine some of those things. So, because even when these things happen, you begin to say to yourself, oh, and I spotted these things, this thing occurred to me, this and all that. So I think maybe a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more attentive will help us in getting, I mean, by and large. Madam Glory, let me see your face now so that I can thank all the two great women I've spoken to this. Okay, there's this and that question here. I won't, please tell me. It's also, can we give out an apartment, 2-bedroom flats to a client who is single? Is there a law not to give Okay, Madam Glory, can you quickly take that? Someone is saying, can we give out an apartment, 2-bedroom flat to a client who is single? I mean, that's not, I hope that is not discriminatory, but Madam Glory, quickly take that.
Yes, why not? Once she can pay, once she has a good job and she can pay for it, we don't have problem with that. You understand me? Our own is that once she can pay and she's a good tenant, we don't have any problem with that.
Exactly my thought, Mr. Yusuf, too. Thank you for asking that question. So Madam Glory, Moji, let me see your face too, so I can thank you both. I mean, yeah, thank you so very much. I mean, it's been a wonderful time, and I want to believe, judging by our people who are still on the platform listening to us, it's been a wonderful interactions. A lot of comments had come to talk about the presentation, wonderful presentation. A lot of people want to have the recording and all that. I mean, Mr. ESB Omotunde, thank you too for weighing in your opinion. We deeply appreciate this. Thank you so very much for doing this. And I can assure you that the month of March is going to be another wonderful time. This has always been done by Obosele and Co. I mean, Real Estate Today. We've been doing this since last year, and it's always been a wonderful and exciting time whenever we do this. So ESB, Oladejo Yusuf, thank you for that comment. And for everybody who had that question, we thank you for your comment and your question. And for our presenter, Mojisola, thank you very much for doing this. I mean, the emotional intelligence woman. Thank you very much. Every day we must keep learning. I think I need to learn. Now, Madam Glory, G for Glory. Thank you for weighing in, and thank you for your wealth of experience all of the time. Looking forward to doing this with you at another time. For all our people who have been here, thank you for staying with us, and thank you for enjoying this webinar. We look forward to seeing you next time in the month of March at the date to be announced to us, and I can bet with you it's going to be a wonderful time. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful afternoon. God bless you.